Welcome back to another episode of the Lender Podcast. I'm Bryce Matheson, and as always, this episode is brought to you by Lender. Lender is a loan management software tool designed to help you with every aspect of your business, from origination to servicing to payoff. Lender helps you with document generation, helps you with collecting monthly payments, dispersing monthly payments to your investors, taking in new loan applications, giving your borrowers a portal that they can log into, giving your investors a portal that they can log into. Pretty much every aspect of everything that you do inside of your lending business can be done and facilitated through Lender. You can check that out by going to joinlender.com. That's LENDR, joinlender.com. Now, on to the episode. Friends, it has been a minute. It has been a hot minute. I've been, I wouldn't say distracted. I would say preoccupied. And so it's been a second since we've done a podcast episode. It's been about 6 weeks since I've recorded something. But just to give you guys a little bit of context, we've been busy, really busy, which is a great thing. Just for my personal life, we've had a lot of things going on. So the main thing is we've relocated officially from Idaho, where we've lived for the last 15 years, to Arizona, Queen Creek specifically. And we did that kind of back in November of 2024, right after Thanksgiving. And we moved here, and it was basically permanent, but we still had a house to sell back in Idaho. And so we listed that house on the market. As you know, the market's been a little bit slower, and so it sat for a little while, but we wanted to leave all of our big stuff like couches and beds and furniture and table and things like that to stage the house and have it show and present a little bit better. So finally, when was it? Mid-March, we got an offer, and then we closed officially about 10 days ago. So it's kind of been a whirlwind, but basically we flew back, we saw some family, packed up the house, loaded up the moving truck, and then officially, took all of our stuff, closed on the house, and moved it into storage. And so now we are officially permanently in Arizona. And it's weird because I still only exclusively lend in Idaho, at least for now. At time being, that may change as time goes on, but I still know the Idaho market like the back of my hand. And so that's where we plan to continue to lend for now. Arizona has kind of some weird lending requirements. Like you have to have a license, but B, you also have to have a physical office space to have people to be able to come to, like the storefront or the office. I don't know that I love that. I really like being fully remote. So we may just for the time being just stay exclusively, focused on the Idaho market, which I do see for the foreseeable future. So that's been going on, but also things on the lender side have been nuts, absolutely insane, which is a good thing. We have had a lot of customers onboarding, especially customers coming over from Mortgage Office, Mortgage Automator. And with that, we've had a lot of feature requests. And so we've really been heads down on building up just like a ton of new features, which is super exciting. And I probably should do a different podcast episode on that, just going over like everything that we've built out in the last 2-3 months. Like I really do feel like we had a good product before, but now it's just completely transformed. So that's really exciting. So that is pretty much why I've been, MIA for last couple weeks, as far as podcasts go. So little update on us, but now we'll get into kind of the meat and potatoes of the episode, which is why you 100% need to raise your prices in 2025 as a private or hard money lender. This is a tough topic because it comes from a place of both ignorance or inexperience, but also fear. There's a lot of fear around raising your prices because everybody wants a deal, everybody wants a discount, but psychologically, there's something that happens when you raise your prices. When your prices increase, it portrays a lot of unspoken words to customers or borrowers or whoever, you may be catering to. It communicates a lot of things, and we're going to go, over that. So one thing that I wanted to share was a quick story experience that I had with a previous software product that I sold when it was time to raise prices. So I sold basically it was a QuickBooks competitor for mom and pop landlords, just, people with anywhere from like 1 to 10 or 15 units or so. So it's basically just a super slimmed down version of QuickBooks, and we've since sold that and exited. But there was a time when we basically weren't making enough to really make it worthwhile, and so we needed to raise our prices. So previously it was at $99 a year. We had a lot of customers, a lot of happy customers, and I learned this lesson that we need to raise prices. We got to raise prices. So what I did was I wanted to double them. So increase from $199 from from $99 a year to $199 a year. And I was terrified. I thought that we were going to lose all of our customers. I thought that we were just going to have this big slump and this big slowdown, and we weren't going to have as many people. So it'd be better to have, one customer at $99 versus no customers at $199. But I will tell you what, that was not the case. When we actually, stuck to our guns and we made that switch and we increased prices from $99 a year to $199 a year, nobody complained. In fact, nobody said anything at all. I thought that we'd have a bunch of people complaining and canceling and things like that. We maybe had 1 or 2 people cancel total, and this was across like hundreds of customers. I couldn't believe it. There was a small lull in conversions and signups for about 2 or 3 weeks. And mainly that was because we ran this huge marketing email that said, hey, if you want to lock in your $99 price, this is the time to do it, because after this, it's going to, literally double. And so we did a big marketing push and we got a lot of signups. And I think what happened was we kind of tired out our market in the sense of like our existing marketplace, our existing customers, both free and paid. And it was fine because we had exhausted that audience temporarily. And so after we made that price increase, conversions and sales did drop significantly for a couple weeks. Like I said, we exhausted our audience, but then at that point, it was like nothing else had changed. We had new customers that were coming in and they didn't know anything about the previous price. They were just like, wow, $199 is a pretty good deal for accounting software for the entire year, especially when QuickBooks is $600-$700 per year. So it makes a big difference. So anyway, I say all of that to just give you some context, and from where I'm coming from, that I get it. It is really scary to raise your prices, but I guarantee you that it will be for the better, because it's one of the few levers that we have as entrepreneurs and business owners to really, adjust the sails and capture all of that wind and really propel our business forward, which is obviously what we want to do. So there's a lot of things going on in the economy right now, and I get that. We've got a new president. Inflation is absolutely insane. There's stuff with all these tariffs. It is terrifying for a lot of people with the economic landscape, and I get it. There is a lot of uncertainty. But one of the worst things that you can do in times of uncertainty is lower your prices. There is virtually zero benefit whatsoever to lowering your prices. Because think about it. You're going to do the same work. You're going to have less profit, so you can't pay to outsource things. You don't have enough money to grow and scale and market. And so really, you're just kind of shooting yourself in the foot. There are, I cannot think of any benefits whatsoever to lowering prices. And it's a kind of a newbie thing to think, if I lower prices, that I'll get more customers. And that, in my experience, has not necessarily been true. So I know it's counterintuitive, but I believe you should raise your prices, and there are a number of reasons why. So the first thing is you stand out from your competition. You really do. You stand out from your competition because everybody else is just racing to the bottom. So a lot of people think, okay, I have this business, whether it's private lending or any other business. I have this business and there are 3 or 4 other people in my market doing the exact same thing. And so what you do is you look at the current economic landscape of all of your competition. You say, okay, this is what they charge. This is what they charge. This is what they charge. I'm going to take everybody and just do a little bit cheaper. And then guess what happens? Somebody else comes into the market and they kind of survey the landscape and they go a little bit cheaper. And then somebody else comes in and they just go a little bit cheaper. And I think you can see what's going to happen, but it's just a race to the bottom. There is literally no benefit to being the second or third cheapest option in the market. There is a place and there is a marketing model for being the lowest and the cheapest, and you make it up in volume. But I don't think for many entrepreneurs or small business owners, that is the method to take. For example, Walmart, they have the lowest prices everywhere, but they make it up in volume because they're a humongous enterprise, absolutely gigantic. That is not the model for you. When you are starting out, you should raise your prices. You should have high prices because you have a lot of different things that stand out from the competition. You have your customer support and your customer service. You have the user customer journey and the experience. You have the one-on-one personalization, and people can talk to you and you're not getting forwarded to a call center in India. There's a lot of things that come from having a higher price. Now, item number 2 is there is also a psychological perception of something that happens when your prices increase. So say, for example, you're looking at two different cars. One car is $50,000, another car is $20,000. Without me giving you any other information or details, you're going to assume that the $50,000 car is better. It might have leather interior, it might have touchscreen, it might have self-driving or whatever it may have, and that may not necessarily be the case. Like the $20,000 car could be better, but when you pit them against each other and you say, look, these are the two options, what do you want? Intrinsically, your customers are going to think that something that costs more is going to have a higher value and it's going to be a better experience, even if it's not. So take that for what it's worth. People associate quality with price without any other evidence. The last thing that I want to say is the customer experience and the customer journey is significantly better when you charge people more. And I've talked about this in other episodes, but some of the shittiest customers that I've had are when they're paying $10 a month or $25 a month or $50 a month for something. And it's funny because you can't do anything about it. You're going to garnish a certain caliber of customer by the prices that you charge. And so by charging lower prices, you will get a worse customer, and they're also going to be a larger headache. They're going to complain more. They're going to suck more of your time. It's really, it's not worth it. So in the context of private lending, what does this actually look like? Well, for me, it's changing from a 10 and 2 product to a 2 and 12 product, or a 2 and 14 product, or some people have, they charge 1 point and 10%, or 1 point and 12%. Charge 2 and 12, charge 2 and 14. And a lot of people, again, they're like, oh my gosh, if I do this, my borrowers are going to leave. And the thing is, you may have borrowers leave. And that is okay, because if you charge double for your prices and you lose half of your customers, guess what? You make the same amount of money. Wow. Insane, right? Imagine that. You double your prices and you lose half of your customers. Your business stays the same. And I would argue that it actually gets better because you have less to manage, you have less to worry about, and you make the same amount of money. So who would not want that? And in the context of capital raising, let's say you're just getting started and you have, maybe sub $3 million, sub $4 million out on the street. When you're at this point, a lot of new beginner lenders are looking for capital. And I'll tell you what, when you're lending out at 1 in 10, your capital is going to disappear really quick and you're going to be scrambling for capital. And you're like, oh, I just need more investors. And this in turn raises your marketing budget and the time spent on marketing and things like that. Whereas if you were to triple your prices, for example, we are 3 and 14. And a lot of people are like, man, I wish I could do that. You can. You 100% can do that. Will you lose some business? Yes, but you will make more money. So who fucking cares? That's the whole point. That's the whole reason we're doing this, is you want to make more money. There is no point whatsoever in trying to compete with the Kiavis or the Lima ones or these big institutional lenders, because they will undercut you on price every time. They will offer a 1 in 9 product or a 1 in 10 product. I can't compete with that, nor do I want to. But also, there's something else that you can do, and you can say, look, when borrowers are talking to you and they say, why should I go with you when you're more expensive? Here's 2 things that I say. 1, we're actually not more expensive. We just look like we're more expensive. For example, Kiavi, Lima One, all these other guys, they will charge 1 in 9, but then they have a billion junk fees. Like, oh my gosh, there is a little fee for friggin' everything, like nickel and dime you on every single tiny thing. And it just is so incredibly annoying. It's just like, geez, like you have a $19.95 commitment fee, and then you have a $750 doc prep fee, and then you have random just like appraisal fees and junk fees and underwriting fees. And I'm just like, what am I all paying for? And so they get you in that door with this introductory price, but really that's not what happens. So there's that. But also, I tell borrowers all the time, we look like we're more expensive, but I can tell you right now, it's really expensive to lose a deal. When you have a deal under contract and it's on the line and you've put in all of this due diligence, A, that's your time, but also you've usually got earnest money, you've got inspection money in there. There's lots of things that you're doing. And if you can't get to the finish line with a Kiavi or a Lima One, which does happen all the time because they will have a pre-underwriting, and then you'll get to the closing table and there'll be like one last final underwriting, and that could blow up your entire deal right there. So think about A, you could lose all this money in your due diligence, but also they could just not close, period. And that's really expensive to lose all that money on. Or you go with a smaller lender who maybe charges more, but they guarantee that they can close in 5 or 7 days, which we do all the time. We do 3-day closings like all the time. Absolutely. And it is so valuable to customers because I can tell you we've had dozens of borrowers come to us and like initially they will say, you're too expensive. I'm going to go with somebody else. And I say, that's okay. If anything changes, let me know. And maybe 7 out of 10 times I have a borrower come back and say, look, they couldn't, perform. They couldn't do it on the timeline that I needed. Can you still close? And I say, yes, absolutely. And we get the deal done. And getting a deal done is worth way more than having it locked up for 30 or 45 days. And then your seller gets annoyed because you can't close. Or like I said, you get to the closing table and your lender can't come through and they need some extensions, more time and more due diligence. Is just a nightmare. So all this to say, there is no net benefit from reducing your prices, but there is a huge upside to raising your prices. And I highly recommend that you do. I know that it's scary and I know that it feels like it's terrifying, but I promise you that just by raising your prices, if you do nothing else, you will make more money. Your business will be more maintainable, more manageable. You'll have less overhead, and I promise your life will be so much better. So that is it for this week's episode of the Lender Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. As always, our email is podcast@joinlender.com, and we will chat with you next week. Thanks for listening.